I'm back. Well, what have we got today? Well, it's a long story that I've ended up with this guitar because I never really intended to buy one. But it all came about a few months ago. I wanted to sell my Dragon 3, which I'd had a very long time, since 2010 or 11, something like that. And it had never been played from new, so I decided not to play it. So it became a bit of a waste for me. I'd had it for so many years and never actually played it. I decided to sell it, and I did sell it to a collector that loves the PRSs like I do, I guess. So I sold it to him and off he went with it, really happy. So part of selling it was because I couldn't play it. Really, I'd have felt guilty. I've said this before. So I decided to buy another guitar that I could play, or I would play. This is that guitar. So the reason I got this is because I sold the other one. I didn't buy any old thing. I'm a bit picky with what I buy. And yeah, this was no exception. But I had a look at the brand new PRSs, and I looked at this one, and I decided to buy this one. This is not a new guitar, but I did look at the new ones, like I said, and I don't know. This is a private stock thing, if you know what that means. Or if you don't know what it means, it's sort of, Paul Reed Smith is supposed to have this sort of stash of wood. It's just so funny. This stash of wood that he keeps up the corner for special occasions almost. And he'll get it and go tap, 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 and it'll go ding, 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 you know, all that sort of stuff. It's good if you believe all that, but I'm sure that they do separate out the better wood than the less better wood. But I doubt Paul Reed Smith's sitting there coveting the wood. It's a commercial operation, far too big. But this guitar has supposedly got some of that wood. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Now, anybody who loves PRSs or likes PRSs is probably going to like this one. There's a few different bits of stories behind it, but basically we're going to review it really close up. Have a real good look at it, because you don't see them that often. Yeah, you see them out there, you see them drop from the incredibly high prices that they are when they're new. Some of them between £10,000 and £15,000 or dollars, depending where you come from. So it could be very expensive new. It was less expensive second hand. So let's open it up, shall we? It sounds like a plan. Okay, so let's have a look inside. Oh yeah, it's still in there. It's very tempting, isn't it? Here we go. You might see it from there, or you might not. Well, that doesn't matter, because we're going to get it out now, a real good close-up. And that's coming now. Oh, there you are. There it is, out of the packet, so to speak. And you do get a piece of paper that tells you all about it, which I'll be using when we get a bit closer. Yeah, I suppose I'd better let you look at it. Yeah, what do you think of that? It's not bad, is it? Let's bring it round a bit. Yeah, you don't see many with the top quite as good as that. Well, I don't. You might, but I think you don't. Even a lot of the sort of private stock ones that they have, and I've had a private stock before, it's in the reviews I've done, but it wasn't up to this standard. And the other thing to bear in mind is this guitar actually is 2014. So you can see whoever's bought it and used it, did they use it? They might have. There's little stories to this one as we go. So what I want to do is to zoom in. I'll read off the sheet, the crib sheet, and you can see just exactly what this one's like. It looks particularly good, this one does. Yeah. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's still pretty good. Yeah, so I'll get the camera down. Well, here we are with the Custom 24, and this Custom 24 is no average Custom 24. This has a body that's wider, and they call it a McCarty thickness. Now it isn't much wider than a regular Custom 24 from PRS, but it's just wider enough to call it a McCarty because the McCarty guitars are a bit thicker. I guess it all stems back from what Gibson did in those earlier years. And you know, the way I look at PRS are often sort of emulating or almost not, I wouldn't say exactly copying, but there are a lot of similarities between what they have done in comparison to Gibson Les Pauls, in particular with the single cut. This top wood, as you can see, it's extremely well figured. I mean, I haven't seen a body any better figured than that in quite a long time. Even some of the ones that I've sort of built myself in the Strat style don't come up to that. I mean, it's quilted maple, as you well know, and we'll look at the other woods as we go. And what I notice on a lot of these is they've got a particular, it's almost like a plate ridge. If you was to take a plate, feel the edge and how it sort of goes up like this. That's what you've got around these private stocks, and I don't remember it being like that in the earlier years of the PRSs that I've had, the Custom 24s. I don't remember them being as intense as that, and it's a very highly carved body, that there's no doubt. You know, they've moved on in lots of ways from the earlier stuff. Quilted maple is pretty scary stuff, particularly this one. Now, this colour, when you see it in real life, it's very similar to what you see on screen, except it's slightly more brown, I would describe it as. And they call it Northern Lights, and if you look really careful around here, you'll see this very faint sort of greeny colour, and then another colour over here, a sort of yellowy colour, and then different sort of faded in colours. And they tell me that was one of the first designs they did, where they had these other colours sort of fading one into another. Things like that, you know, which I think's pretty interesting stuff, really. So it's called Northern Lights, is this finish. Yeah, very clever. Well, what else can I say about it? Well, this has not got the very latest tremolo. This has got the tremolo that's previous to the revision 3. And there isn't really a huge amount of difference between the revision 3 and this one, except what I understand is underneath these two little screws here on the revision 3, on the bottom plate, you have like little ridges that those screws sit in. Why they do that, I'm not entirely sure, but I had a revision 1 and this is a revision 2, so they all seem to work fine enough for me. Although this one, if you look at it carefully, if you can see that, it's actually sitting almost flat on the top, and I usually like them raised a little bit. But the action on this particular guitar is very low, so I'm not going to sort of mess around with it too much. It works as he says. Well, what else have we got? We've got a tone and a volume. And what we've got is this. On some of the PRSs we've got like a blend between these two. But I think on this particular guitar, this is a little bit earlier than when they were doing that. I could be wrong. What you have on this switch, that's really very much like a Fender switch, is right back here, you've got this pickup. When you move it to here, you've got this pickup and one of the coils out of that one. When you're here, you've got both pickups, and when you're on the fourth position, you've got, so I believe, all of that pickup and one of the coils out of this pickup, and there you've got all of that one. So it's not rocket science to understand, if you can bother read the manual, which I can't. Who cares? Now then, the finish on the top here. This is it's a high gloss nitro, and you can tell, yeah, very nice, very high gloss. Now, looking at the pickups, I've got these white rings on it. Now I might change those for some wooden ones at some stage. I know it's a private stock, but that doesn't mean me putting it in a box and never playing it. I'm never going to do that with this guitar. I bought it to play and it's going to be played, so you know, it's all good. But these pickups, I want to talk a little bit about PRS pickups, but I'll talk about the actual issue regarding pickups when we go back up after looking at the guitar. But for now, let's just talk about those that are fitted, and those pickups are what they call 53/10 pickups. What that really means is they simulate 1953 pickups, and they were simulated in 2010, or they were made in 2010, that design. So 5310. For me, to be honest, I don't like them. I bought the guitar because I like the look of the guitar actually, but I've got some pickups on order with PRS that'll change the way this guitar sounds forever. I'll stuff the old ones in the case. I think that's the best place for them. Not my cup of tea. But you notice they do actually have the gold screws in there, which I think the ones that are on order don't have gold screws, so I'll be flipping the screws over so they look just like these, except they have a different number on the pickup, the ones that are coming. You've got gold on here as well. Well, it claims to be gold, but whether it is or it isn't. I mean, this is a trend that PRS has had for some while now, where you're seeing gold and chrome, or nickel if you want to call it that. This is chrome. You know, you're seeing this mix of it on the guitar. It's a bit of a weird thing that did emulate, I believe, from PRS itself. So, yeah, very interesting. Let's move that way a little bit, and then I think I've covered most things on the top here. Obviously, before I do move up, you've got the binding that's sort of clean binding on this one, the same as you have on all the other PRSs. It was just that lip I wanted to talk about. I mean, it really is an intense lip. Yeah, quite amazing. Now I do want to talk a little bit about the neck and the inlays and all the rest of them, and the frets and the rest of it. Well, basically, if you look really careful at these birds, what you normally see with the birds is you just have one insert, and that's that basically, you know. You always see the little owl, or the owl here, on the 24th fret. If it is a custom 24, and sure enough, there's the owl sitting on his little branch. So it's a 24 fret. What else can I tell you? Well, when we look at these birds, you can see them here. If you notice, look really careful, and you'll see the birds, and then you'll see a tiny thin outline. And what you've got there is you've got green ripple abalone with mother of pearl outline. So they actually sort of put that tiny little outline around every bird, which is quite, well, it's actually quite amazing that they can do that without breaking anything off. Quite scary, really. What else can I tell you? Well, let's have a look at the neck. The neck at the back, obviously, pretty obviously, is mahogany, but this wood on the top, the fingerboard wood, is Madagascar rosewood. Okay, Madagascar rosewood. You can see it's sort of very glossy and shiny, and well, actually, it's very nice. It's not like ordinary rosewood as I'd think about it, or Brazilian. With Brazilian, you'd have these big holes. I've got a pigeon going outside. I can hear him. You can probably hear him too, but let's ignore him, shall we? You can see on this this fingerboard wood that there's a sort of black inclusion that goes all the way down. Trust me, it does go all the way down. Now, what have we got about frets? Does it talk about frets in here? Probably. In actual fact, it doesn't actually tell me much about the frets. There's no real comment about exactly what they are. So, well, there you go. But all I can tell you is they finished exceptionally well, which usually on PRS they are. And the other thing I know about these frets, because they are probably standard in all other respects, is they are the hardest fret material that they can get supplied at PRS. So when PRS goes out and tries to find some fret wire, when it makes a choice of fret wire, it goes to the manufacturer and says, make me the hardest fret wire you can. It could be stainless steel, it could be some other alloy, but that's one thing I do know that they say. So let's move up the neck a bit. You'll notice on the headstock that once again you've got Madagascar rosewood, and this is not by some error, this is by getting your money out, because they don't do any of this by default. So all of this here is Madagascar rosewood, just as is the neck itself. You see maybe another view of that neck from there. And there's a quick shot of the eagle close up. You can see that that outline goes all the way round through the wings and down to the feet. Scary, eh? Actually, before we go round the back, let's talk about the tuners. We've got what they call Series 3 tuners, Series 3 locking tuners here. You'll see round the back they've got all the sort of cogs hanging out and things like that, which has happened later on the PRS stuff. I have a Series 1 on the 1991, I have Series 2 on the 2005 guitar I've got, and these are Series 3. So, all interesting stuff. And you've got on these tuning pegs, what's it telling me about them? Ivoroid buttons, them are. That means they're plastic. They don't use ivory anymore. They won't let you use that, and it's Ivoroid. So they're, not that it makes any real difference. I couldn't really tell any difference, except that it tells me that's what they are. Having a look around the back, this is a mahogany neck. It's signed by Paul Reed Smith and Paul Miles. I think his name Paul Miles. And it's private stock number, looks like 4963. I think that's it. And it's got a date there of the 2nd of June 2014. Standard number across the top. Doesn't have a 10 on here because private stock doesn't need a 10. You've got these Series 3 tuners, like I said, and they're the little gears all hanging loose, which you can tighten up and make things really quite tight. I think that's an improvement overall over the earlier stuff. And there's an update on these days where I think there's some little screw somewhere that can make these even tighter on the newest ones. Yeah. All very interesting stuff. You can see on this headstock that PRS has put a few bits of wood on at each side, just strangely enough, just like Gibson does. It's a way of saving on the cost of the wood. Now this neck is, it's a pretty comfortable neck as it happens, and what it used to be was wide and thin. And they changed the name of that to pattern thin. This one is pattern regular, so this is more like, it's not exactly like any Les Paul, but it's sort of like a Les Paul, sort of. But it has a contour here that changes as you go down the neck. So you might find here that at the top it's a bit thinner at this point, but when you get down here that sticks out a bit more. Seems that way to me anyway. There is a specific thing with it, but it's got a funny contour all the way down it, and it's sort of changes as you move down. So the actual playing of it, it's actually quite good. It's not bad. I'd have preferred the wide thin neck, you know, or the pattern thin, but this guitar hasn't got it, and this is the only one they had like this, so I've got what I've got. Now looking at the back of the body, this is mahogany again, and so's the neck's mahogany as well. You can see the sort of slightly different colours. That's okay. You find it's got the cutaway at the top here. Like all PRSs, it's a pretty standard couple of plates there. In fact, I've just ordered some replacement wooden plates which will suit this much better. They're made in rosewood, so that'll be nice. Bit of an improvement over a bit of plastic. I'll take the plastic ones with me when I go and see Paul Reed Smith at the Dallas Guitar Show and get him sign them with a bit of luck. Or not. Depends what mood he's in, I guess. Notice one thing, that if you look at this overhang here, that this one's actually quite short as far as some of the PRS Custom 24s go. I've seen them as far out as about here, something like that, which is a real long way out. You imagine it this high and this far out. It's going to restrict your playing. But on this one, it's been carved back. It's not as far back as on the PRSs of 1991, I can tell you that much. There's just much stuff further that way. But this is very livable at that. And one thing I've just noticed with this, if you look at the contour there, that's very similar to the contour of the actual neck. You can see that up here you've got a thicker lump, and it sort of fades off as it goes down there. So you've got this lump. It's just the contour of the neck, very, very similar to that there. Yeah, all very interesting stuff. I'm not going to show you inside. You've seen inside a guitar before, right? But you can see that finish around the edge there that PRS is known for, you know, of the clear maple. It's got a metal plate down the bottom. I won't bother showing you all that stuff, and it's got the usual PRS things here. But let's flip it over and go from there. Now, I'll just turn the lights out for a very short time so you can get an idea of, maybe a different idea of the coring of this guitar. It's difficult to show you in any light really, but yeah, you get the idea. So let's go back up top. Well, all good so far. Yeah? You get the certificate. I've been reading that as we went. There isn't many things I haven't sort of covered on it, but yeah, it was set up to 10s on the strings, which is pretty standard these days for PRS, but I flipped them to 9s. Yeah. What else can I say about it? There's not really much else on here. It's all, we've covered nearly everything really. Thought it was pretty interesting about the McCarty thickness body. You don't really see, can't pick it up, you don't really see any real difference on the thickness of the body, but there is a difference. My view is it's about 1/8 of an inch or so, so not a lot to sort of shout about really. Paul Smith obviously did, probably his idea. Now, one of the things I did want to talk about, which I mentioned earlier, was all about the pickups. PRS, you know, I go all the way back to 1991 with PRS. If anybody's seen my green Custom 24 from 1991, there's a review of it actually on my channel, so you ought to go and have a look at that. It's a review like this that we're seeing now, so it's good to compare. Now, on the 1991 thingy, we had a HFS, or Hot, Fat and Screaming, and the other one I think was called, oh my god, a Deep Dish, or something like that. Yeah, Hot, Fat and Screaming, and Bass or Deep Dish, something like that. It's a long time ago, and I haven't looked it up for a long time. But on the review for the green one, it's well covered. And then I moved up to, I think 2005, which is the 20th Custom 24, which is the next one I've got on my pile down there. No, not that pile. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, and that's got different pickups in again. And if I go for the Dragon 2002, that's got number 7 pickups. I happen to like the number 7 pickups, as it happens. They're very uncommon, but they do sound good. The number 7 pickups always had a sort of matte finish on the covers, from what I've seen. Anyway, enough about number 7 pickups, they're not on here. And then I come to this guitar. The Dragon had Dragon pickups, Dragon 3. And then I come to this guitar, like I say, and this one's got it definitely says here 53/10 TM. The TM's me, of course, Tony Mckenzie. Yeah, I've said this before, but there they are on the pickups. The thing is, these really don't suit rock. They haven't got the sort of drive, and you know, I was talking about that 53/10. Well, the 53's for 1953, so you can see where the pickups come from. Well, that's some of the early ones, isn't it? Yeah, let's figure out how to do some pickups. Oh, these are the first ones. Well, it comes across to me like that. So I'm not keen on the 53/10s. And I think the next one's, oh my God, 5908s. I think that's another one. Yeah, and then they've got a, oh man, this is the problem. You've got all these pickups with all these different denominations, like what I'm describing to you. And the problem is, guess what? It's all vague. So when you go and look at a guitar like this, you plug it in. Well, you know it's how it goes, don't you? When you go and buy one, and I've only just bought this, they always sound good in the place. You'll think, oh, that sounds great, but it's not your amp, it's not the volumes, you haven't got the wah pedals you need, you haven't got the effects you need, and it's not the same, really, as when you get it home. And that's exactly what I found. I got it home, I thought, cut them out. I've gone back to my friends at Sound Effects and said, hey, they make some metal ones, and they've got a sign on, you know, like that, actually on the pickup. So that says a lot. Now the thing is about them metal ones, the guy that is even playing them, I mean, it sounded really great. I mean, really great. He said they're not really quite metal, as we know it, but they're good. And I like a lot of drive on pickups. I don't want them squealing, which, again, these 5310s, for me, with how I set the amps up and use the pedals and the rest, they seem to squeal a bit. It's not for me. These are definitely not for me, and I'm not surprised about that. So I'm going to get the metal ones, yeah, and I'm going to fit them in here, and they will look identical except for the screws which we're going to flip over, you know, that sort of thing. Easy to fit, they're still 4-wire, so it'll still do everything that it's always done. And that's the plan. But as I say, thinking about those pickups, and when you look at the pickup range that PRS has got today, it's a very confusing situation and not easy to decipher. I mean, the way I look at it, it might be fine for some guys when they say, oh, it's 5310s. Don't mean anything. I've never played, and I saw this on one of the videos where Paul Smith was talking about, these guys were saying, he was saying in some demo, oh, it sounds like a 58. And a guy stands up and says, well, that's a great comment, but what does a 58 sound like? I've never played one. Neither have I. And as far as 53 ones go, that's even worse for me. Was I born? I could say something, but I don't think I will, because this is the internet, isn't it? Yeah, so, yeah, they've got to go. Yeah. Oops. So what's the story with this thing, Tony? Why did you buy it? What are you playing at? God, how much have you spent now? Well, actually, I said earlier, I had the Dragon 3, and it sat in the cupboard since the day I had it. Never played it. I didn't want to, didn't feel I should. So I sold it in the end. Really nice guy who bought it. I won't name who he is or what he is, but he's been around, let's put it that way. He knows who he is if he sees this video, and he probably will, because he's a PRS lunatic. A bit like me, I guess. I'm a PRS lunatic for the most part. And yeah, it's all good. So anyway, I get rid of it. I've got some money. I put some money back in the bank, which is a good idea as you get older. Look at me, falling apart. And I spent some money on that, and I paid about $3,500 for it. Yeah, $3,500 with its discounts and all the rest. Sound effects stock might be co-UK or com, but either way, I'll put it down in the text somewhere. Yeah, great bunch of guys, and yeah, I only found one thing with it, it's a tiny little rub at the bottom here that I'll bet you nobody even saw. It's minuscule, so I don't really care, and I'm going to be playing it, so there's none of this put it in the case and oh, I don't want to get a scratch on it, you know. I know it's a nice guitar, but you buy them to play, really. And I made this commitment when I sold the Dragon 3 that whatever I bought, if I bought anything, I'd play it. And that's the beast. And I'm going to rip the pickups out, snarl, and I'm going to make it really an awesome guitar. More awesome than it even is today. Now the thing is, are you going to hear it today? Well, no, you're not. These pickups, to me, don't sound right anyway. They don't inspire me to even play a chord. To be honest, you go and plug them in front of a Road King 2 that's screaming at you, or a Mesa Barber, any of them, it just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds great if you've got a nice clean guitar and you've got a reverb and a little bit of echo, you know, that sort of stuff. It's a brilliant guitar for all that sort of stuff, but that's not where I come from. I come from rock, you know. I might be old and naff, but it's got to do it, else there's no point. So what I may well do, when I get the other pickups, I'll film it with these pickups in, and then I'll film it again, when I've changed them. And that's a much better idea of a video than just sitting, this is how bad it sounds. You don't want to do that, you know, there's no point in doing that. But I really did want to get across to you what this guitar's like, and to me, this is awesome. This is an awesome top. And I didn't update for a lot of years from 2005, but I have to say, just digressing, when I went along to sound effects, he's got loads and loads of PRSs, some 10 or 12,000 pounds, you know, new. And he'd got these wood library things and all the rest of them, and different pickups there, some different, oh that's a DGT, and I'd never seen any of them. But you buy them for a long time, and you know, I'm looking at all those different guitars he's got, and all the different features on them. A lot of it was to do with the switching, or whether they got piezo, or whether you could roll this between, well, if you got 4 on, whether you could roll this between the tones, so to speak, if you get the idea. To me, it wasn't like a PRS. And in some ways, from what I understand, and you know, what I know, and the PRSs I've already got, this is a lot like a PRS, but not. So clearly Paul Smith has moved on, wider body, different pickups, completely different switching than the old switch that used to be there, which was on the 2000, the 20th as well. So a lot of things have changed. You know, even those tuners that had been out a long time, and I think they've been updated since. So there they were in 2014. I don't have any of them on my guitars. So a lot of things change. Definitely maybe for the better. But we'll determine that when I get my pickups in them 2 positions. Yeah. One last thing, just while we're talking. I like to talk about this sort of stuff. I'm not always right either, so if I got something wrong, don't worry. Don't tell anybody. We'll keep it between us. I think this sort of level of guitar, like this one, had it been new hanging on his wall, well, he could have been on 12 or 13,000 pounds, maybe 11. Makes a little difference. 3.5 is a lot better than 11 or 10. Even if it was 10, I doubt it below that, because the guitars that he did show me that are 10,000 pounds were actually no better than that one. All very similar, I guess. Once you get to a certain level, I did have a single cut private stock, and again it's reviewed on my website, and it's also reviewed by video on my YouTube channel. So anybody who wants to look at a private stock single cut, yeah, go and have a look at it. Personally, I wasn't that impressed with that guitar, and it still didn't have the latest pickups by any means in it. I forget the year of that, but it's there, you'll see it. I think it's about 2009 or something. I've been asleep. But that had a list price of about 13,995. So that was nearly £14,000. That's a lot of money. Yeah, it had got Brazilian, I think, on the neck. Yeah. In the end, I sold it, and I sold it for sort of similar money to this. I think I got about 3.2 for it, and it was like new, you know. But it just wasn't for me. If I want a single cut, I tend to opt for the Les Pauls on it, if you want the truth, because I've got them. Really strangely with these Northern Lights things, I mean, I did touch on it when we were looking at the top, but you couldn't really see anything. As you move around like this, sort of greens down here, and there's sort of yellowies and greens down there, and sort of reds over here a little bit. And it's all these different colours that seem to be sort of down in this area, down at this bottom part, which is sort of like what PRS has done on some of the newer guitars. And you know, at Sound Effects, they had some sort of £10,000 or £11,000 guitars with different colours on them as you went down. I don't mean you know, the older ones like that. And this was a new one, and it said, "Oh, it's a dragon's breath" or something like that. And this apparently, you know, they mix these colours like this, is the forerunner to all of those. That's what I understand. I could be wrong, of course, but well, I usually am. So, last look at it. That's it for this video. I wanted to show you this, and because it's got a lot of things to talk about that have changed on PRSs as I knew them, even the cases, you know, it's a nice case. Yeah, so yeah, interesting guitar. You'll get to hear it. You won't get to hear it now, I'm afraid, but I've got a lot of other stuff to do as well. I'm trying to catch up a few of these videos for people to watch. You know, guys always say to me, "Oh, Tony, where have you been?" I've got a real life, and I slowed down a lot when I was knocking all these videos out, so many a month. And on this video here is the 270th video. Listen, that's a lot of time. You don't understand how long it takes. I won't just do a quick 10-minute video. I don't believe in them. I can't talk about equipment without talking. Or my own views, or you know, some of these things like you know, the pickups, or all the other stuff that we've covered in this video actually. So that's it for now. I've showed you on my last video some of the things that are coming up. This was one of them. Don't forget to go to www.tonymckenzie.com. I still say I'm going to update it. There's still a lot of stuff on there if you've never been, and it'll keep you busy for months. If you've been, well, you might have missed something. And I am working on that website. Last couple of weeks ago, I think it was, I put 30 hours on that website. You won't see any difference, but it's been done. Anyway, that's it. Look for the next video or the one after, or it might be the one. It might be about 8 or 9 further down the road, because I am going to the Dallas Guitar Show, and when I go there, I'll be doing masses and masses of filming. So looks like my channel's going to get busy for a while. I've got 3 128 gig memory cards to fill up. Oh my God, that's going to be some footage. I don't know how good it'll come out, but we shall see, won't we? So until next time, hope you've enjoyed this one. PRS Custom 24 Private Stock with a McCarty thickness, Northern Lights finish, some obscure pickups I don't know what about, but all the rest of it's pretty cool. Now get out of here.